Good morning, my friends. It's the 25th of December 2014, Mr. Max Bliss in the southwest of France. And the last 2 days have been very, very cloudy and artificial clouds and foggy starts with no cloud definition whatsoever. And from the satellite images we could see literally hundreds of chemtrails above the clouds, which is very, very interesting. We've found a resource to monitor the persistent contrails that we see when it's not a cloudy day. We can see them even when it is now on a foggy day, so that's very interesting, because we find that these things are pretty much happening all the time. The weather is far from natural, far from normal, and it's not because of anthropogenic global warming. Not in the truest sense of the word. It's not from the normal activities of everyday men and women, children, going about their normal lives. Any climate changes that are happening are not because of the incidental activity. The inadvertent effects of our normal everyday life is not changing the climate. What is changing the climate are these artificial clouds. Cloud regulation. Clouds play an absolutely important role to the regulation of temperature within the climate. Any climate scientist will actually agree with you there, with me. There is no doubt clouds play a vital role, a key role. In fact, 90%, 95% of the greenhouse effect, the so-called greenhouse effect, is from water vapour in the atmosphere. Remember that CO2 is only 0.0375% in our atmosphere. It's a trace gas, a vital gas that means all plants can grow. We don't want to take more of it out of the atmosphere. CO2 is being inaccurately labelled as a pollutant. It's been inaccurately labelled as a main driver of climate. Now, it may well have an effect of warming up, but it's much, much less than is being hyped up by globalists like Bill Gates and Al Gore and all the rest of them. It's being hyped up because it's some way that they've been working towards a carefully planned scenario where they can introduce new laws and regulations, cap and trade schemes, carbon taxes, etc., etc. Now, I want to say to you, listen, CO2 is a minute amount in our atmosphere. But of that minute amount that is in our atmosphere, how much of it is really down to man? Right? Because all plant life, when it dies and decomposes, releases CO2 in the atmosphere. So do volcanoes. When volcanoes are going off, they're releasing huge amounts of CO2. So does the ocean. The ocean takes in CO2, or they're worried about ocean acidification, right? It also releases CO2. It's a cycle. Man's amount of CO2 that they are responsible for putting in the atmosphere is far less than they would have us believe. Far less. But they want everyone to be frightened. They want everyone living in fear. They want everyone believing that there is a man-made global warming problem that all of mankind is to blame for. Well, that's a lie. That is a misrepresentation of the truth. They have been experimenting for over 100 years on learning how to manipulate and modify and control the weather and climate. I've got patents from 1890 where they were talking of releasing liquid carbonic acid, which is CO2, into the atmosphere via a balloon to make it rain. Very much like the Vincent Schaeffer 1947 General Electric CO2 patent for making it rain. Only, of course, it was 60 years earlier, 50 years earlier. They've been working at this for far longer. There's a man called Oliver Joseph Lodge, who in 1905 had a patent to direct electronic energy into the atmosphere for the purpose of making it rain. That's right. Hey, look at the speed of that cloud above those chemtrails. Wow. I'll tell you what, it's still as anything down here. And in his patent from 1905, he talks about how different polarity of the electric beam would create rain or clouds, or would clear up rain or clouds. Positive to make it clear up, negative to make it rain. And it's relatively straightforward, and this ties in with many other patents and commercial companies that are operating to ionize the atmosphere. Now, we know that there are metal nanoparticulates and salts in the contrails. That's not disputed. The question is, with all this cloud regulation and this cloud generation, because these are artificial clouds, these are not natural clouds. What you can see here is a disgusting example of massive clouds in this atmosphere which are not natural. These are purely formed from the use of aviation and some other stimulation, which I believe to be electromagnetic frequencies. But I could also imagine that I've done so much research now that I realise this is a multifaceted program with many different options. So you can't nail it down to just a few. But we can categorically observe that this is not normal, or it's becoming a new normal, but it's not natural. And this is unacceptable. This is a part of a covert climate engineering program, and I don't believe it's an inadvertent part of a covert climate engineering program. This is deliberate, and this has been worked on for many decades. And what's the motivation? What's the reason? Because they want to bring about a one world government system where they hope everyone will accept it. Why would you accept it? Because you've been conned, you've been lied to, you've been deceived to believe that we have a dire global meltdown problem. But conveniently, many people don't know that 400 years, thousands of Vikings were living in Greenland from around the turn of the last millennium, from around 1000 to 1400 AD, in Greenland. Thousands of them, up to 5,000 or 6,000. And they had no electricity and they had no mechanical advantages of modern day agriculture, yet they were growing and producing all their own food, all their own wood for cooking and for heating. And they survived for 400 years. They had churches, town halls, schools. Now, how did they manage to do that in Greenland? It was warmer. This is the whole thing about this global warming threat. We have been warmer for longer before. But what we've got here, my friends, is some covert climate engineering program that is bringing about changes, creating some extremes, that is affecting our climate. So they can say it's man-made climate change, because they are changing it, but it's not everyday people. It's not our normal activities. It's not our power stations. It is a covert climate engineering program. And if you wonder how on earth can all these airlines be involved, well, it's not that difficult. If you think about the fuel going in, who are the people who own energy? Who are the people that sit at the Bilderberg groups? Who are the people on the Trilateral Commission? Who are the people at the Club of Rome? We are talking about the top of the top, the elites, the globalists. We are talking about the people who own the fuel companies, who own the airlines, who own the manufacturers, who own everything. These are the people right at the top of the tree that are pushing for this one world government and have been for hundreds of years. This is their motivation. This is what they want. They want a one world government so we can be their slaves and they can control humanity. They can control the population. And remember, overpopulation is a myth. They've been creating that for hundreds of years. It was first mentioned in popular writings by Plato in 400 BC. Now, Plato's Republic is supposedly the model that they want to use for, or they're inspired by, for this New World Order. Well, that was a fascist dictatorship with slaves. And unfortunately, that's what's being developed. So I urge everybody to wake up. Please do your research. Because there is ample open source material and there's lots of people doing the research. Global warming is a myth. They are targeting the Arctic because they're deliberately trying to melt it. They have been trying to do that for over 100 years. And they're employing all sorts of different techniques that have been designed over the decades. You know, the radioactive material from the 135 nuclear bombs, including the most powerful bomb ever detonated on this planet. We're talking about a series of ionospheric heaters that can heat up the stratosphere, create a sudden stratospheric warming, and that can direct and push winds around and suck warm air in and push cold air out, creating your polar vortexes. They are manipulating our ionosphere, our magnetosphere. They are manipulating even our troposphere, as we can see from these persistent spreading contrails and these gravitational waves, which clearly are not natural, and we haven't always seen these. These aren't in the picture books of the many hundreds of different tourist books that you see here for this historic nation of France. No, the skies were blue or cloudy and normal and natural, but not anymore. It's time to wake up. We don't want Agenda 21, thank you very much. We don't want all this 500 new climate laws for 2015. We don't want tyranny. We want freedom. We actually want the people responsible for this covert climate engineering. We want them arrested, we want them removed from society, we want the people behind the pharmaceutical poisons from the vaccines, from all these different illnesses they've created like Ebola. We want these people removed. We want the people who are responsible for illegal wars removed from society. We want the head of the snake. We want to stop this poisoning of society. We want a free society, and we are not going to stop. Because we are in a war, my friends. We're in a terrible, silent, quiet war that many people don't realise. But every day, more and more people are waking up. Please do all you can. And share that knowledge. Raise the awareness. Because we can succeed in our mission to free the world. To remove this despotic oligarchy and monarchies. These evil, despotic, insane people. We can erode their system and make it collapse. We can do this. Take care. Bye for now.